What's up, everyone? This is Deemer class, midfielder for the PLL Chaos. Really excited to present to you Class and Jules. Jules Hendenberg and I are going to be breaking down some games throughout the PLL Championship Series. We're both not playing, due to different circumstances, with injury, but we're making the most of it, and we're excited to break things down as we watch our teams and watch our peers compete in some of the best lacrosse the world has ever seen. So with that, today is our first episode. We're breaking down the Atlas versus the Water Dogs. That was on NBC. Jules, welcome. Fired up to do this with you, and can't wait to get going.
Absolutely, Deemer. I appreciate you kind of introing what we're doing here. For me, obviously, we started working together with first class lacrosse and first class footwork fueled by the Juke Lab. It's been great so far, and I don't think it's any coincidence that both of us are kind of at home, being able to watch. And with that being said, I know we talked a little bit about what we wanted to do is stay engaged, so we thought this would be a fun way, for us to talk a little bit of shop about the game, something we do behind the scenes a lot, but thought it would be insightful and fun to kind of just open that up to the crowd a little bit and give our perspective on the guys we've competed against on the field and our teammates and just talk a little bit about the game. So without further ado, I'll kind of get us started. I'll touch base on the first thing I kind of noticed in the Atlas Water Dog game. For me, as an attackman, I like to kind of analyze the attack to start the game, see where those guys are at. First game of the season for the Atlas, I'm looking at Ryan Brown. I thought last year, coming off the World Championship, obviously one of the best shooters in our game, very well respected. He's got a stroke from every which angle, but I thought last year he didn't shoot his best. And I think a lot of people look at last year as kind of a sample season a little bit because everything was so new. So I think you're starting to see more things true of form that it's going to kind of play itself out this season. So with that being said, he started off the game hot. I know he had those 2 goals, cutting one in the crease, and that save from Ryan Brown from Romar. So it was great to see him kind of get hot right away, go 2 for 2, and I'm excited to kind of follow him for the rest of the season and see him kind of continue that.
Yeah, 100%. I grew up, training with Ryan, playing on a lot of teams in high school and college. And, it's been exciting to see, I think that goal that he had off the little fade, he's mirroring. And then just that little hedge off of Ryan is enough for him to catch, get his balance, get his hands free. Both you and I have been active on Twitter talking about some individual plays, some different things throughout. The technique on Ryan, between lefty and righty, catching it loaded, having every release in the book, and being so smooth is something that, people need to keep appreciating. And I think in lacrosse, these references to Steph Curry have been thrown around all the time anytime someone shoots outside 14 yards. But he is, one of the purest shooters the sport ever has seen and ever will see. So it's always exciting from someone who, loves to shoot the ball to see Ryan, take these shots and be a threat just as much, if not more, lefty than he is righty.
Definitely. And we'll get into that a little bit more, kind of just talking about his ability to balance the field and what that does for Atlas's attack. But I think, for me, kind of that one play Romar set up on the shorty, he went right to right, popped away, threw a money pass to Ryan Brown. It's just a trend I think we'll be able to follow for the rest of the season with the Atlas's midfield, specifically with Romar. They got 3 big dudes up there in Paul, Romar, and Busick. There's not enough long pull to really, triple pull to the midfield, but someone's going to get the shorty. And I think if Romar can kind of continue to create separation on those shorties and make the right reads and not always the home run play, not that he's saying he does, but if they can do that and consistently draw attention, it's just going to put a lot of pressure on defenses, and it's just going to be really hard to defend those guys.
Yeah, so Jules, I saw a great tweet today from Coach Jerry Byrne at Harvard. Built legendary defense at Notre Dame. You play with a lot of those guys on Redwoods. Now he's the head coach of Harvard. He tweeted today, actually yesterday, one of the hardest reads for defenses in the PLL is playing the pick and pop and throwback passes. And, one of the things we teach a lot, are these redodging series, right? These pump fakes, these look backs. And, when you put someone in that mirror situation, that's the slide oftentimes. Like, that's that crease slide. And I think you can be really effective, like you said, when you have Romar, when you have Paul, when you have Connor. If you continue to put Brownie in those mirror positions and he can go either way, like think about it like this too. Matt Gaudette's someone for Yale who has always been in these mirror spots, but being that he's a Canadian, if you throw it back to him, he's got to do such an incredible job to catch crossbody and always get his righty shot off. Brownie can just go either way. So you can truly give that guy that two-way go. And I think that'd be really advantageous if they continue to exploit that and Rubio implements that into the offense, because then you can't slide off. You can't even hedge. So
Yeah.
like then you're going all adjacent and then they're turning the corner. I think that could be a really interesting development.
Yeah, and I think the one that happened today with Romar, they kind of dodged in that low alley spot. It's hard if you dodge in that low alley and you have someone like Ryan Brown that pops behind that can shoot those low angles, because there's no one to really come off the crease in a way that covers up the defense. So what I mean by that is that same play happens up top. The hedge from the crease can slide up to Ryan Brown, get in his hand. So then Ryan Brown's gonna have to move through the ball already, probably losing that shooting angle. And then that puts pressure on now the Dodger if he doesn't want to throw to Ryan Brown because he's got a guy on him. Now he's got to see through the defense. He's either got to throw to the midfielder who's behind Ryan, who hopefully is in the play, or he's got to bang it down to the back pipe, backpedaling, which is it's a really hard play to make. So there's definitely a lot of nuance to pop him behind the ball, but I think if they can continue to put, like you said, Ryan in spots that is a guaranteed shot off the play once they draw those double teams out of that initial dodge, it's going to be really hard to defend.
Yeah, and I think another thing that becomes a coaching balance for any coach is when you have a short 52-second shot clock and you take into account a clear or a little slow break offense, and then you got 35 seconds. Well, when you have Rob doing his thing behind the cage and you've got three big middies up top, where are you going to initiate that offense, and who are you going to give those opportunities to make those decisions, right? Because I thought Rob did an awesome job today, and we'll talk about this, especially from your attack perspective, seeing inside and then through the defense. But that obviously only happens when he's initiating from behind the cage. So where are you starting your offense? Where are you going to focus your energies to like getting certain looks? And how do you divvy that up? I think that's always a balance when you've got all these offenses in the PLL that are so deep and talented.
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting kind of point. I don't know if people are noticing that as much, but it was a huge transition for ex-attackmen who are ball carriers who are used to kind of having that extra time to set your moves up. Where I think when you saw Rob today, like through the second quarter, we didn't see him, I don't think, take a shot. And that's kind of, I think, just a testament to the level of play in the PLL, how hard it really is to get the ball around to the ex-attackman for them to attack back upfield, because a lot of the time the clock gets so low, sometimes we don't even get it, or you have to get it off of midfield shooting the ball at X. And if that just doesn't happen, all of a sudden the quarter just ticks away, you'll look up, whole half goes by and you're like, wow, I've gotten one run. And it's like, then we see Rob, when he was getting his runs, immediately, obviously defenses are starting to hedge to him. He's a threat. BJ Girl is guarding him. I thought BJ did a great job on Rob. But it's still, that's how it happens when you're a pro player and playing as long as he has and you're an MVP, he's going to draw the defense. If he can just keeping his head up like he did, those passes are over the top and through the defense are just going to continue to stockpile.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and speaking of BJ, BJ was my year at Marquette, and between BJ and Jake Richards, those are two guys that were so core to, Marquette going from new program my freshman year to hosting a first-round playoff game under Coach Amplo my senior year. And they're obviously two guys that have continued to have a lot of success, are so fundamentally sound, buy into the team defense, are vocal leaders. And, really the only time that I thought, BJ got beat was that one off the end line where Lal did a great job. Again, subtle play, right? Quickly moves the ball adjacent to Rob, and then Rob takes that angle and then feeds Costabile inside. Off that kind of end line restart where BJ's trying to hustle and then doesn't, match up as quick off the end line. Subtle, savvy play by Lal and Rob back there. But otherwise, like you said, I thought he did a great job of playing good position, being patient with his feet, not overcommitting. Rob likes to do a lot of different hesitations, rollbacks, get his hands free. He was matching step for step, and being physical for one of the shorter defensemen in the PLL. I'm excited to watch him continue to go, as that gives the Water Dogs some really good balance in terms of being able to second slides, third slides, and kind of rotate their defense around BJ's stellar one-on-one play.
Yeah, definitely. I think Rob got a step on BJ also. He got a backhand. And then we know we talked about the other one, but I think BJ, what he does so well is he's kind of just a nuisance. So if you watch him, every time Rob was going to get the ball at X, he'd pressure out on Rob. And like we talked about that short shot clock, if Rob misses that opportunity because BJ pressed out, the ball might not get back around to Rob on the offense again. If someone doesn't, again, take a shot that goes behind, hits off the pipe, by the time he does get it, there's 5-6 seconds on the shot clock, and then it's a forced opportunity and not a comfortable opportunity, which, like I said before, ex-attackman coming into this league, a lot of us were like probably comfortable with that extra time to kind of set up. It's just not there. So it's definitely an adjustment, but I'm excited to kind of see that to develop. I know a lot of guys have been able to adjust to it. It's just picking your spots and being more efficient. And a guy that I think is adjusting this year also is Kieran McCardle on the Water Dogs. I think for him, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about this about the rest of the Atlas attack, but there were so many moving parts on their attack last year. I know Kieran, I played with Kieran in 2018. I know he was a top 5 scorer in the other pro league. And I mean, if you just watch him, you see why, right? Like he's so subtle with what he's able to do when kind of getting tops on his defenseman. He's got great vision over the top through the defense. And he just knows where to be, especially, being a box player now. And watching him today, I think he had 2 and 3, very quiet 2 and 3, but that's kind of how he's always done in his career. I think we're going to see him really be able to quarterback that offense with Drenner and really, rise in terms of being one of the top attackers in the league this summer.
Yeah, I love Kieran's game. I think he's like, one of those classic slashing attackmen. He's got a great stick. He's got great size. I think there was that one time on that, fast break where he's kind of stepping in, changes levels on the shot. Like he has a really nice underhand release. And I think he turns the corner really well too. And I think, like you said, between, a Drenner, between a Cooch, Drenner, Ben Reeves, they got a lot of different, types of attackmen. And they complement really well with their middies. I was really impressed in general with the unselfishness of all those guys today and the way they played with and without the ball. Guys making plays, cutting, flashing to the ball. It's going to be an offense where everyone's worried about their chemistry that I think is, really hungry to continue to progress. And that'll be exciting to see their development. And I think, like you said, I think Kieran's going to be a big focal point of that, throughout the rest of the tournament.
Totally. And touch on our guy, Kelly. I know, obviously big offseason for him getting, not traded by the Whips, but getting picked up by the Water Dogs expansion draft. Kelly's from my grade, graduated the same year, 2018. He was offensive Big Ten player of the year at Maryland and did a lot of damage on us when we played him. And I thought he had a great rookie season coming out of college. And then, last year, I think just playing on that Whips, midfield line, it's not easy with the ball. Like there's just a lot of guys who can shoot and do a lot of stuff. But again, going to the Water Dogs just gives him another opportunity to be more of a number 1, maybe number 2, depending on the day. And I think you saw that's what Kelly can do when he puts the ball in the back of the net, puts his head down and goes to work.
Yeah, is Kelly your boy or my boy?
He's both of us. Depends on what day of the week that was me.
Yeah, depending on which day he answers our text, right?
Yeah.
It
he
was
answered mine today when I congratulated him. So
yeah, same. Quick. That was a quick response.
Yeah.
No, it was awesome seeing Connor. I think I tweeted about it. I think Connor's always had such exceptional footwork in terms of some of his re-dodges. And I think what Connor does really well is, and I saw this too, and I was just looking at and hearing some different basketball guys talk and, being playing at top speed, and thinking about just your full top speed is so minimal when you're in half field lacrosse. They're quick windows, right? And so Connor does such a good job of, even if his first split is just okay, he does such a great job of changing speeds in that alley. And you saw that on display with his couple rollback moves. Like that's something that he really nailed down at Maryland. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how can he keep setting up that rollback, maybe a fake rollback and getting back under righty. Like he's tough to cover in that spot. And then when you have such good guys around him as well, they're not going to be easy decisions to slide off, right? So even though he might be drawing the pole, you get him on a shorty. Do you want to go off of other guys? And I think even when you have someone like a Ben McIntosh, a Berg, guys who are, whether they're on the same line or not, guys who are just comfortable like mirroring, picking, fake picking. I think it's just going to be a lot of different looks. And that's where, again, like, even like Kelly, who maybe is more involved in terms of like some one-on-one action and some rollbacks and stuff. Maybe you start getting someone like a McIntosh to pick, fake pick, slip, and get Connor's hands free even more. I don't know if he hit a 2 last year per se, but he's got the range. He's got a really good release. And so that's going to be another development. And then again, like when he gets the ball in his stick more, I mean, look at some of the feeds that he had, over the last couple of years. Like it's just guys on this team are going to continue to get some really cool opportunities to continue to showcase all the great skills they got.
Definitely. And I think with Kelly, something that, I played with him on the whips last year before I got traded. He loves, like you said, those rollback hesitation moves. But when we talk about team chemistry, you got to have guys that are able to adjust, specifically up top when he's not doing them in the low alley, that can adjust to you and play off of you. If you're more of the focal point in the offense, I think where he is with the Water Dogs, it puts the other guys in situations where they have to play off of him, as opposed to other guys maybe, being more the number one midi, waiting for the ball and not thinking to play off him as much. So I think that's a great role for him to kind of be, one of that 1-2 punch with Drew as well. Another guy that was on the Whip Snakes, but maybe that took more of a do-it-all midi role that I think we saw today. He's obviously extremely capable on the offensive end and can put the ball in the back of the net. He hit a lot of great opportunities. One or two more of those dropped. He's got 4 goals coming out of that midfield right there, which we know in this league, getting 4 goals in a game is no easy feat. Probably not more than 10 guys did that in a game last year. So I'm excited to kind of see them develop that 1-2 punch chemistry. And then, Drenner as well, another guy I think that obviously played a huge role in the Whip Snakes, but gets an even bigger role on the Water Dogs now, kind of having X freed up a little bit since Rambo's not back there with him. I think you saw today him kind of being able to quarterback, do his thing, kind of be opportunistic, but also be a little bit more aggressive with the ball in his stick, and it makes some big time plays.
Yeah, I love watching Ryan. I mean, he's very opportunistic, plays the game with a lot of heart, so two-handed. He's got a lot of great release points, some great up the half shots. I thought his hitch kind of refused the pick situation down the alley, sticking one lefty on the run. Like he just displays a lot of versatility, and he plays with high IQ. And I think, again, when you got so many guys that have that different, varying skill sets, but can play off of each other, it's kind of becomes a dangerous offense because anyone can have a day. Like even like you said with Drew, like, talk about one of the most, decorated veteran professional players in our league, and guy just continues to show up, make plays, and be a guy that, people can really play with and play off of, and continue to take on different roles. And I think, guys like that, I know they were talking on the broadcast, were crucial to, and Brody, even like getting guys like that on the roster that can be leaders and help, a new squad come together in a short amount of time.
Totally. And one of the guys, on the other end that I look at, in a similar light, but also he's a glue guy as much as he is like a quarterback playmaker, is Eric Law. I know I put a tweet out about him today. He's someone I grew up watching. Eric was at Denver when I was in high school, and I think he's a couple years older, so it might have been like 9th grade. But watching him play pro, I think it's always been something where he's never really gotten the credit per se, from the media, from just what people who talk about lacrosse. They're very quick to talk about other quarterback attackmen. But I know he's another one of those guys that's such a decorated player with championships, always being at the top of the league in scoring, but would never really get the same respect. And I think personally, when I watch him play, he just consistently does what the right play in the right moment. It's not really about how it looks. It's not about him being the primary scorer, the primary assist guy. He just puts himself in the right spots and is very efficient when he does it. And then you look up on the scoreboard pretty much every single game, and he's up there, and his team wins games. So it's like I kind of take pride in that as well as an attackman, because I just think I learned at a very young age, well, not very young, but specifically in college, that, you know, the ball is only in your stick so often during the game. And if you can be an effective player in terms of the stuff you're talking about, like a guy that can play off of other people, can move the ball one more, can ride, can do all the little things, then you start to really become a player that people want around on their teams and can really push and drive those offenses to be great offenses. Because it's not all about, you know, the one player that can get to the island and score. It's not all about that midfielder that can shoot the 2-bomb. You need guys like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that kind of sticks out in my mind when it comes to thinking about Eric is, like, talk about someone who, like, doesn't get bored of, like, scoring the fundamental.
It's
like,
amazing.
Think about even the youth players out there where, like, you're doing a training session, or even you're watching a youth game, and kid catches it on the crease and finishes one low and he gets that goal. And then the next time, instead of just doing the same thing or faking and finishing, it's, you know, an unnecessary leaner, or, you know, behind the back or an around the world shot. It's like, just put the ball in the back of the net. And like Eric, like, you know, on the one where Rob fed it cross crease, right hand, right pipe, guy just puts it in the dirt and finishes his opportunities and, like, doesn't get tired of it. And it's like, you know, sure, like, I'm sure he's adding things to his game over the years, but it's like, talk about someone who wants to do their role really well and it doesn't get boring for them. Like, just do your job, and, like, he continues to crush it. And it's, like, funny to think about, like, wow, like, look how simple he makes some of these finishes around the crease, but it's like, no wonder why this guy is consistently one of the top finishers. What was the stat Joe posted, or the graphic on PLL stats? Like 77% on the doorstep or something last year.
Yeah.
Like,
5 and 8.
it's
He's
like
the number one scorer.
low and away, fake and finish. Like, extend your hands. Like, just.
And when he needs to, though, like, you saw the takedown in the alley, like, jump, twister, like, that's a big time take. I don't think people acknowledge that is a big time take because Eric's doing it, but
right.
Like, that's not an easy goal to score. That's a hard move, but then he has the backdoor cut where he just catches it and puts the ball in the back of the net on to next, and then just does that 5 times like a game. It's just like, you look up and it's like, yeah, maybe he didn't have the backhand, or they were on the back, or it wasn't like a great juke to a, you know, a top side finish. It's just fundamental, like you're saying. And that's where my tweet was like, it's almost as if I think in lacrosse, sometimes people highlight more the way you score it as opposed to actually scoring the ball. And I don't think in other sports, it's like, if I'm a quarterback and I throw touchdowns, are you going to look at how I throw the touchdown? Or are you going to look at I had 30 touchdowns for the season, or 40 touchdowns? Like, it's a goal. It's a goal. If you're putting it in the net and it's helping your team win, like, why does it matter how it's getting there?
There's something to be said for just results. There's actually a lot to be said. Results and just making it happen. And I do agree with you. Like, you know, we, you know, at times can overhype the split to the swim to the step back, and, like, that's fine, and there's a time and a place. But, like, if someone's doing that when they could consistently get higher percentage looks, or you're missing the guy on the doorstep, or, you know, XYZ reason, like, you need the person that's going to be the fundamental finish it. And, like, those people need to continue to be recognized in the sport. And so it's always just exciting to see someone like Eric continue to dominate and set such a good example, you know, for players in the sport. And I know he does amazing things in the Denver lacrosse community. So I know they're lucky to have him.
Totally, man. And with that being said, I think, you know, another guy I think is a bit underlooked. And I know he didn't put a lot in the cage today, but Cuccinello on that offense, it's just a matter of time before he starts to light it up for the Water Dogs. I think you saw last year, you know, with the Archers, he really became that X presence that they needed kind of later on down the season when he started to get more runs. I know he took us to the rack a couple of times when we played them in the playoffs. You know, maybe 1 or 2 more chances he scored, it would have been a different game. So I'm really looking forward to seeing him kind of erupt for the Water Dogs and take on a bigger role, kind of carrying the ball and and either whether it's running on the box or being on the attack.
Yeah, you just got to feed him. I mean, it'll be exciting to see. I always love watching Cooch play. Again, I talked about it. Put a little players I'm excited to watch. Up this past week, and he's just a guy that makes a lot of the right plays. One of the most physical, attackmen, and you kind of got to use that to your advantage. So it'll be exciting to see it. I mean, you got a lot of talent on the team. But I think too, like, you got someone like a Reeves who's constantly working that left side, running up the field, slashing off the wings. Ryan can kind of move all over. Kieran, similar, I think, style to Reeves. And I think Cooch can be more of that direct X presence, getting up to both islands, two-handed, can actually body up a more physical defender. So it'll be interesting to see how that offense continues to develop. But I think it's cool for those guys because they got a lot to look forward to.
Definitely. And it's crazy in the PLL, there's so many teams that have, 4, even sometimes 5 legit attackmen, and there's only 12 minutes a quarter, and there's only 3 spots in the field. So, you look at the Atlas, for example, Kluche and him coming in at the end of the game, scoring that goal. Like, could he have been doing that the whole game? Like, perhaps, right? He's a big guy. I know our rookie season, he led, the pro league in scoring, and comes in this year again. They lose Kieran, but now it's, it's a battle of Rob's on the team. And it's kind of him, Ryan Brown, Eric Law, and Rob kind of searching for time. And it's kind of that balance of like, who do you put out there? Who's hot? How do you get everyone involved? Because like we saw at the end, he took that guy to the rack, that defenseman, I forget who it was, and really sealed the deal for them. So it'll be interesting to see how that develops, who runs out of the box, who you give more minutes to. But it's not a bad problem to have, but it's definitely a problem I think a lot of teams have in this league.
Yeah, and like it's just like, sometimes there's a lot of guys, and I've always felt this way. Like sometimes you need shots to get going. Sometimes you need dodges to settle in, right? And when it's a 52-second shot clock, you don't have the chance as much to have like a dummy dodge. Have a dodge, kind of get your feet wet, test your matchup, move it forward, and then get it back on the swing. Like that doesn't really happen. So like, and then when you have another like stud rookie like Brian Costabile, Costabile, Busick, Romar, Hall, like, you got to get your horses going. And so I think it's like, again, like that's not an easy task for a coach. But obviously, I think Coach Rubio is one of the best. So he'll continue to, continue to work on that. But I think then it just also goes back to speaking about, what we talked about with guys like Eric, and guys like Brownie, guys like Drew, being able to work and adapt off different situations. Because are you going to initiate from up top? Are you going to initiate from the wings? Are you going to initiate from X? All challenges that these guys need to keep working through. So it'll be interesting for sure.
Definitely. I think versatility is really what sums up what you're saying. Like, how can you just play where you're needed and be efficient in that role in that moment? And I think those are the guys you're seeing really do well at the PLL in terms of consistency of scoring. I think it's hard for guys to really be pigeonholed into like a certain type of role. Like I'm a 2-point shooter, or like I only can shoot from my left hand, or like I only drive from X. Like that puts you in a situation where you're very limited in what you can do to help your team. And perhaps that specific situation doesn't come up as often for a lot of reasons in this league. So then, the guys that are able to adapt and continue to grow, I think are doing well, and you'll see this season continue to grow. And with that being said, I know, and we haven't touched on it much, but the face-off situation I thought was a great battle today. We saw Courier kind of come off that initial move, his first time playing the PLL. Everyone knows what he brings to the table, picks up that ground ball, hard take. But it's him and Ryland Reese and Withers who are kind of on that unit together, that Canadian national team unit. And Withers, I think the stat was like 0 for 6 or 0 for 8 on actual clamps, but he won all the draws. And it's just like he's an absolute bull at the face-off X, and he can definitely scrap and get in there and create plays. So it'll be interesting to kind of see him develop over the season, see that unit develop, and see what they're able to do.
Yeah, for sure. And it's been interesting. I think Greg's done an amazing job. Greg Grenlian, shining light on the face-off position. Being, a lot of commentary, and he's got the Stripe podcast. So it's been cool to see that. Talking about kind of the two-headed monster that the Water Dogs had, going up against Trevor. Jake and Trevor both being FOA guys. You could see just, again, the face-offs are so key. I think you see that in both of our games, right? The Woods and the Chaos, with Nardella and Farrell, getting the best of Saturday. When you talk about splitting possessions, getting guys going, getting guys the chance to dodge and get settled in. If you're not seeing the ball with a running clock for half or 80% of a quarter, it can really disrupt flow. And it's funny, like I had people kind of say like, oh, like what was going on with the game on Saturday and this and that. And sometimes it's just like, man, it's hard to really point to any one thing in particular because you're not consistently seeing things enough to like really pick on trends. Like maybe a guy misses an opportunity here, maybe a guy turns it over here, and then just one thing leads to another, and then you don't really get a full offensive set for 8 minutes out of 12. And so the face-off thing is so important, and I thought it was a great, battle, today with, Water Dogs Atlas and a lot of timely face-offs, and, a couple of guys that I'm sure will, continue to do well throughout the tournament.
Yeah, the last thing we want to touch on, obviously the goalkeepers, Cipriano's first start this season. I believe was he the backup to Blaze on Chaos last year?
Yeah, he was our backup, and I played with Sip before, yeah.
And so it was great to see him out there as a starting for the PLL for his first season as a starter. And I thought he made some timely saves and did a great job overall. I know Atlas midfield struggled a bit shooting today, and I think that was a credit to Cipriano, his ability to see the ball and make big plays. And then obviously Kincannon, we saw him last year, but he really stood on his head. I think that he was the difference maker, in my opinion, and really keeping the game so close. I remember I was watching the game and I was like, it seems like the Water Dogs should be up by like 4 or 5 goals. And I was like, they're only up by 1. And then all of a sudden, boom, and then Atlas won. I was like, you look at Kincannon, he made so many big time saves on the crease. He robbed McIntosh on that one, and he was just all over it. So
yeah, there was a few like third and fourth quarter. I think there was one either 2 men up or 1 man up that he made that save. And again, like momentum plus opportunities. I don't know that the Water Dogs were able to stretch their lead beyond 3. Maybe they had it at 4 at 1 second, but I think it was mostly around 3. And again, in this league, that's a 2-pointer, from Paul or Busick, right? That's a single from someone, and then Trevor winning the next face-off with the potential to score, right? And so it's like that team is so deadly to just, let them linger. And if you kind of that 2 to 3 goal window it's almost like, psychologically, like, is that harder to play versus just being up 1 or tied, because 3's like, we're kind of comfortable, but like, are you going 50 seconds where you're just trying to kill the 50 and then get back on D? And then, how do you manage the clock versus like, hey guys, just be loose and just keep doing what you're doing. It's not an easy way to kind of manage that game with 52-second shot clock. And I agree. I thought both goalies played awesome. Awesome to see Charlie crush it. I think Cannon's 58%. Charlie was 59%. Both made some great saves. Made a lot of good shots look easy, both ways. So, credit to those guys standing in the cage. I think one of the most mentally challenging, positions in sports for sure. You think about like catchers, you think about soccer goalies and stuff. And again, just like think about the size of the ball, the speed at which it goes, and the distance. Like, as lacrosse continues to elevate, I think over the years, it's like that position is going to be one of those ones where, the stuff going on cognitively and their reaction time is probably going to be like off the charts in terms of like what these guys are like projecting on some like monitor.
Totally. And something you touched on there, man, the uncomfortability factor when you're up 3. Like I know for the Woods last year, I think we were the worst 2-bomb shooting team in the league. And sometimes, like I remember we play you guys and like Newman would come down and I'd be like, if he hits this shot, it's just, I remember one game he hit 2 of them and I was like, that's 4 goals. And it's just like that. and it's like you're up by 3 and then all of a sudden you're down by 1. And it's just like, and then you look at your team, if you don't have a guy like Busick, Rabel, these guys that are consistently shooting these 2 bombs and can score them, it kind of just makes you anxious a bit, because now you're like, every goal you get is hard earned. You know, every goal in this league is hard earned. Like, we see it across in terms of the best scorers. Like, some guys go 1 goal a game, 0 goals a game, best scorers in the world. So it's like, then you get that 1 goal, but then another guy goes down and pumps two, and it's just like, all right, that's getting me on my toes here.
Yeah, you work so hard for that dodge, pass, throw back, hit a 6 shot, because you've literally got these 7 goalies who just every game someone's standing on their head. You know, it's just like, it's not easy, and then you got, you know, the time factor and stuff, and you know, it's certainly interesting is just see how, you know, stats, you know, what we're, you know, used to in college and pro, and just how that continues to be affected game to game, and like maybe what's considered a great game is going to look different over the next couple of years.
Yeah, that's a great point. I was actually thinking about that today, because I just don't think, especially in the length of our season right now, I just think it's so hard to really, you know, pinpoint on who the best players are per se. You know what I mean? Like, in other leagues, the length of a season with, you know, the consistency that you have to stay at that level, and just everything that, like, for example, in the NBA, 82 games, 4 quarters, like, you can see it play out. In our league, like, I don't know if you see it fully play out. And even if we do, it's just like, sometimes it's not all about the stats that you're seeing on the sheet. It's like, who is a perceived shooting threat, right? When you have the ball in your stick, how much defensive, you know, how much of the defense's eyes are you occupying as that ball player that sets up other guys? There's a bunch of factors. So definitely will be interesting as our league continues to grow to kind of see what analysts really talk about with that stuff.
Yeah, 100%. I think, and just lastly, you know, while we're giving shout outs, I think, you know, from my end, you know, big shout out to Paul Burmeister and Ryan Boyle. You know, I think they've done an awesome job the first 3 games in terms of covering the sport, the professionalism, you know, the way that they're, you know, keeping it loose and some banter while really touching on a lot of great storylines, and, you know, given the sport, you know, it's much deserved, you know, prominence, I think, in terms of how they're covering. So I think it's exciting to see, you know, the broadcast and production's been awesome. You know, I know you and I are dying to be out there, but, you know, staying positive, and, you know, just want to thank everyone that's, you know, tuned in and watching this recording, and, you know, just stay tuned from our end all week in terms of content on Instagram, content on Twitter, stuff we're putting out in writing, and we'll keep bringing you these recaps.
Definitely. I think it was a lot of fun tonight, Deemer. I think for people watching this, you know, this is a unique time for you guys to kind of really learn from us, like, what we're seeing. Because I think it's a game where, and you'll see it from players that join the league and people that start to get involved, it's like, it's not the same old lacrosse there once was. There's so many nuances to it. And I know we can definitely talk as 2 players that have played and on separate teams, can kind of give some insights, some different storylines of players. We know what's going on in terms of what we believe guys should be bringing to the table, and just, you know, guys we see just doing well and different ways they're kind of building their games in the off season. So I had a lot of fun, looking forward to kind of seeing what the people watching this think and what they want to learn about. And until next time, Deemer.
Awesome. Well, fired up, Jules. See you this week, and I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Sounds good. Peace, brother.
Peace.